Okay, we're going to continue talking about uh, all the elements that make up this journey. Profane word would probably be project. Um, it's a little bit more than a project, but I guess for all intents and purposes, it's a project. It's just got a long arc, and that in and of itself changes things. So I'm just gonna continue here with what we got going on, and basically, even this first cover, I'm just showing the cover because I'm gonna go to the right here. But sacred ritual and hexified, that's what it all boils down to. Sounds kind of intense off the bat, and in a way it is intense. It's not it's fun is what it is. It's I think I mentioned in the last video that what I'm doing is more akin to world building, and I believe, and a lot of people believe this, that world building is more important than ever during this time of saturation of everything. So, um, what that means is basically everything needs to have substance and identity. And as I talked about before, those things come with taking things in a sacred sense. Um, Being ritual, we talked about that last time as well. And that is just doing the same thing again and again with intent, and hexified to change things, to make it yours. In my case, that's hexifying something. In your case, it could be, uh, whatever you want to call it, but you're going to change it, transmute it into something that is yours. Otherwise, I don't know. It tends to just stay in this. Well, they said. Well, my professor said. Well, my mom said. Instead of integrating things into your own lattice. You're not borrowing anymore. You have made it yours. Um, and that in and of itself is identity. So, and then this middle column here is just the air. Sacred are things that were already there. So that's air. It's just there, right? Air is just there. Ritual, which is earth. That's more of a grounding thing. And a lot of, and these symbols aren't just they're not what uh, they're not hollow. They are not for decoration. They mean what they mean, and the three of these together, I in the future I could be using four or more, but right now it's just the three. I only need the three. The three fits with my balanced ternary and all that, again, in the last video. um, and then the fire sign, which is to ignite, to set on fire, or to destroy, to create or destroy. So that's both of those, and they all fit together. There's a place for every one of them, and these get used um, intentionally, and it keeps me organized, because something will look off. Something that I put in a ritual space, it could be a fire thing. Sometimes it's sacred, but then you realize it has a bit of organization in it, moving something around, changing it in some way that makes it a ritual thing. You did something to it, and then so that's it. Just keeps me organized. It's an organizational practice, but again, with the way that I've presented it, or even I don't even know how it happens. I Wow. I mean, I can go all the way back to the beginning and say that I didn't really understand these words. I mean, hexified I made up, but that stuck in the fire realm because that's what it is. But ritual and sacred, I had to stop and ask, what does ritual mean? What does sacred mean? What are we talking about here? And how does that, the thing for me is that everything has to work for it to be real. Anybody can make up a story, anybody can world build, anybody can make something fake, and it be a really good idea in theory, and that's cool too, if that's how far you want to take it. But me personally, when you do that, it has to work for real. And for me, that's code. I'm a developer, and that this is how I code basically. But before we even get to the code, this is the foundation, right? The very first step is changing the way that I think, I guess, the mechanism that makes me make the choices that I make. So that's what that is. If we sidestep here, we talked about this a little bit. The concentric circles, huge, huge. It's a huge. What am I trying to say? It's everywhere. These concentric circles are the real, where the work begins to be actual work, and in a way, rules that follow. And rules aren't bad, and they're not, it's kind of a mix of mere suggestion as well as well, I'll tell you, it games have rules. Let's just start there, right? And that doesn't make a game less fun. In some respects, it makes the game more fun to have a rule that you can lean on and say, that's why I did that, because the rule is this. And so rules are rules, and they're there. And I know we can say, like, oh, rules are meant to be broken, and rules are meant to be bent, and that's true. However, staying within the rule, just like coloring within the lines, can be beautiful too. And I think that's um, kind of like, the more rules that you put on something and it's still working, it's like a stress test, right? The rules are a stress test to what you made. Are you, you know, did you have to bend the rules? Did you have to break the rules? And hopefully the answer is no. I actually adhered to the rules, and this is what came out. Um, so for with these concentric circles, most people draw these web clouds, right? Of an idea and branch it out. Um, but I think the concentric circle, there's this oneness to it. It's all one thing, even though it's, in this case, one, two, three, four uh, circles. Um, they they all belong together, as when they fit inside each other. uh and it also, I mean, because you have the rings, you have this layers, you have layers, you have hierarchy, um and you have an inward and outward. There, it's a powerful thing, these concentric circles. And so I'm gonna dive into let's see, what am I going to dive into? I'm going to The writing, I was trying to write as I was doing these, and I may still do that. Actually, I have this spreadsheet which I showed last time, and this might be small. Let's just make it bigger. This table is an organization of all these things. There's about 100 and let's see, there's 165 right now, and I know I don't have everything, even as developed as it is. It doesn't have everything, and I keep filling in the blanks, and even talking about things. I'm filling in the blanks, the blank rows that they're not here, but I insert them, and then I continue. Like, take for example this Subu row. It's super big now because I'm putting the card text in here, and the reason is because this just keeps shifting, and I tried to I tried to do write these in here. I try to number them and things like that, but it changes, and when it changes, it's a lot easier to update the spreadsheet than it is to chase it with these documents and stuff like that. So that's what this is. Since I have this up, I'm going to talk about these first few columns here. And basically, you see the elemental glyphs. Let's take the citrine deck, the first column here, and all of these belong to a deck, and I think they're all the same deck. This is except for the second part. This first part, if we went into citrine deck and went to our legend, then we'd have a citrine deck here, and the air symbol for citrine deck is Hexcraft. This is the Hexcraft deck. This is what we're working on. That second deck that you saw that had the fire, that was Hex. That's the Hex deck, and that's just specifically about me. So that's what those symbols are doing here. You assign them here. See, I only have the two symbols. I have the fire symbol and then the air symbol. Most of them are air because that's literally what I'm working on are these two decks. Did I put I wonder if I put concentric circles. I did. It's card number 46 in the whole shebang. I'm actually gonna put what I put there. There's a oneness to concentric circles. Instead of a web of things, a web of interconnected things, we have one circle moving outward with each circle wrapped around it. I don't know. It inherently, help me out, spell check. Inherently, I don't know why I can't spell. It inherently creates hierarchy and layers just by what it is. I don't know. Merely by existing, basically, but merely by drawing it out, drawing an idea out, using concentric circles. We'll say that. Circles. Okay, I can't spell. That's not enough text. I'll put a function in there that'll do my word count for me, but I know that's not enough. But that is the beginning. At its core, we have either an explicit idea or a implied, an explicit or implied idea. If the idea is implied, then the first most inner circle becomes a hole. And all the concentric circles after that become a donut. With an empty space in the center. And what that means is exactly what I'm saying. You don't need sometimes you don't need that center in there. Sometimes, especially for designing, these concentric circles can be. Let's see how this is made. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a donut. This is not a donut. This is a circle, lighter, darker, or lighter, darker. I don't know. It just is. um, I lose my train of thought a lot as I'm doing this because I'm thinking about the next spot or the next thing. So I'm gonna go to the Pathfinder and I'm gonna just nix that. And then I actually, before I do that, I'm obviously gonna need it again. So I'm gonna copy it, do that again, Pathfinder, remove the center, and then I'm gonna paste that in front and do the same thing. Now I have a donut, or a disc with a hole, or a washer, or something, you know. But basically, that this is no longer anything; it's a hole, and these things go around it. These circles are what make it, and I'll get into why that's important later. But that is the benefit of doing it. Doing concentric circles is the center becomes very important, that it's empty and that it could be filled with something else later on. So I will just say that and keep going. I actually don't even need, let's see. Yeah, okay. So concentric circles are very important. I'm talking about how this was how people interact, I believe. And most of the time you get these two things. This is person one, this is person two. And they're both interacting on this profane layer, and that's a layer outside of the sacred layer. And what that does is it keeps you from it's the way people operate, I believe, because it's easier. If nothing was important or nothing is important, then it doesn't really matter if you have a reason for saying something or not, which is to say, people talk out of their butts a lot, and they don't really base it on anything other than their gut feeling that something is, it makes sense to them, and that's as far as it goes. But if there were reason for everything and everything were important, if everything were sacred, you would have a reason for everything, and that reason would be a lot deeper than just the reason for that one thing. And again, that word again is lattice. There's a structure that you have for things because you take them seriously, because they are sacred, and because you treat them that way. You have not just conviction, but a reason for that conviction, and that, you know, so. Which is probably the definition of conviction, to have a reason, but people have conviction with no reason at all, I believe. I was going to put the other slide first, but this seems to resonate, going from concentric circles to exactly how they're used, even though what is a thing really, and what are rings really, what they really are. I could have explained before this, but this is basically how to use them. Again, philosophically, but again, the philosophy is and execution are one to one. They're used exactly how this little diagram, this little example is exactly how they get used. Um, well, let's break this down here. What is this? What are these letters? They represent gems, and there is a gem slide, but to see it this way first, it'll help when the and again, like even when I explain this uh, for what it is, saying gems, they are really gems. Again, for all intents and purposes, they are gems. This most inner circle here are emerald. This represents the emerald gems. The Z is the topaz gems. The S is the sapphire gem. R is for ruby, and Q is for turquoise. What they actually are, I'll get into later, but that's all you need to know is that the reason this is a concentric circle, the reason this works is because of what they represent. And for here and now, the emerald represents time. So any time value will go in the emerald. Any numeric metric that could be used actually to calculate something based on the size of that thing, whether that be bytes or some kind of measurement or something like that. That all goes in there. The S is for classification for sapphire. Rubies are like configs, almost settings, things like that. And then we have the turquoise, which is just content. That is a thing, which is the first section here. A thing is a thing, and it doesn't need other things to exist. It's just a thing, right? If you take all that, emerald, when was it made? The topaz, how big is it? Sapphire, what is it? Ruby, does it have things that could be changed, right? Values that could be changed and altered to make something work specific to what it is. And I don't even care about these cards anymore. I mean, I'll clean all this up, but the cards themselves have gone through a huge evolution of what they are now, and I'll explain that too. And so again, I'm talking about software. Anytime I say it's real, it works, blah blah blah, it's the code that's making it work, and these gems work beautifully. I don't know why this isn't fitting. And there's a system behind all this. So, but I'm just explaining it the only way that I know how. I don't know, to get people interested, maybe. To articulate it myself so that I can convince myself that I'm on the right path, possibly. Although what's most convincing is just building it and again seeing if it works. So you take one thing, and those things, even what it is now, they're rings. Those are rings. You have the emerald ring, you got the topaz ring, you got the sapphire ring, you got the ruby ring, and the turquoise ring. There is another type of ring that is official to binding things together, and that would be the diamond. And you can see in this example here, the D is just floating out here because this is the ring for the diamond. This light blue is the diamond ring. And if you notice, this thing, because that's what a thing was beforehand, has a diamond definition, basically. And that diamond definition encompasses the four things here. So this D is just floating out here, but it's actually, I mean, it's really, oh, this D's here. Oh well, I was gonna pull it out and just put it in the center, but it's not in the center. This diamond value belongs to this thing, and it encompasses all these things because that is the thing that links all these things. And what are these things? Well, in this example, these are plants. Yeah, it takes a thing to make a ring, and once you have it, it becomes a classification thing to put things in. That's what this represents. This one, it represents plants. This thing is plants, and all plants go inside this ring. It's basically probably the easiest way I can say it. And so in this example, now there's many more plants than just these three, but sunflowers, roses, and tulips are all plants, and they belong in the plant ring. If we zoomed out, we also have an animal ring. If you're an animal and you have 4 legs, we'll say this is the 4. Let's see right here, 4-legged. This is the D is right here, floating around, and it's floating around out here because this is the ring, and all the 4-legged animals are inside that ring. 1, 2, 3, 4 examples: dog, rat, cat, and horse. Those are all 4-legged animals, even though they're very much the same, or excuse me, very different, but they fit a class. So the diamond gem encompasses, it's a play. We created this 4-legged thing that encompass these 4 examples of 4-legged animals. You could go on to say, obviously, no legs, 2 legs, whatever, fins, blah, blah, and it starts to classify these even more, and you'd need other rings and stuff like that. But it's just interesting. It takes one thing to make animals itself, and one thing to classify them as 4-legged. And even as it suggests, the further out you get, the more generic it gets. Whereas living things, that's everything. That's everything here. That's the animals and the plants, the flora and the fauna, and they are together as living things. So that diamond here that's floating around here encompasses all of these things, and it's a chain or thread that weaves everything together. That is the ring system. Now here, I've obviously made them actual circles, which makes them actual rings. And it is diagrammable. You can diagram it. If I wanted the same thing, I would say living things. Okay, and then that has a thing here, and we separated those into animals, right? And plants. And then, of course, we branch out here. In the animal, we had the 4-legged animals. 4-legged animals? Or just 4-legged, whatever. It's already in the animal thing. And then in there we had the dog. And this is going to turn out pretty nice. It's going to look decent enough. But what you don't get from this, there. So now we have 4, but and they're both not the greatest. Over here. And so what I'm doing right now is actually what made a lot of this. Obsidian's a great app, and it made a lot of these. I've made countless graphs in here, and I used to graph in Illustrator, which I'm going back to now because of all this diagramming that I'm doing. And we'll just throw some stuff in here: rose and sunflower. And so this will look pretty good, even though I'm just dragging them around. They become a way to organize and see. Even this right here, what I just did, looks a lot better than that did. This looks like you don't know what you're doing, or I don't know what I'm doing. It's okay. but putting it in the center so that it branches out like that and the lines look nice. I didn't even do it here. Probably there. It's still snapping, but that looks a little bit better. This, look, is bending that thing. If I just left it there, that's just a little bit of visual noise. So we'll just align that and then align these. And now it's even looking a little bit more like something. I can move this out more to make these even with those. These are all things, right? These are the plants and animals are classification. Four-legged animals is a classification. But when we get down to cat, dog, horse, rat, rose, tulip, sunflower, those are all things that you can see and categorize them however you want, not necessarily in there. So I pull those up instead of having it down here where they're maybe not related as much or on the same, literally the same level. So that's that. This is the same graph as my graph here. Neither one is better than the other. Although in hexgraph we have rings, and when you talk about gems and rings, it signals an idea that the gems go on the rings and there's a finite space for the ring because the ring goes on your finger and it's jewelry and things like that. That is not what those rings are, even though those gems are very much real and they very much are on the rings that these are. It's a kind of nice play on words. They're more like sci-fi rings, they're more like all-encompassing rings, I guess. I mean, look how big this ring is compared to the emerald ring. The emerald ring is very small. All it has is an emerald, but it takes all these gems. What is that? 6 gem? 1, 2, 3. It's not all the gems, but it's about 6 gems. I think 5 gems for most. I started with those because when you import data, you're going to have a timestamp. If you don't know when the data piece happened, you at least know when it gets imported or created in the system in and of itself. It's going to have a timestamp for something, even if it's just the creation of the thing, even though the thing that you may be creating didn't happen at that time, but it got inserted into the database at that time, if that makes any sense. And even right there, you have already 2 emeralds. If I open up, I don't know if I really want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If I open up my file system already in the Finder, let's add some columns, date. You see, date. These in Hexcraft, in the portal, these are emeralds. Emerald size would be topaz, kind would be sapphire, and then date, emeralds. That's the way that I just see it now. As I mean, you have a repeated word here, date. But when you group those all in the emerald, that's you don't need to say date over and over and over. They just become emerald data. That is what it is. So that's it. That's the classification. That's the classification system. Things exist as is. The rings are those concentric circles, and you have multiple things working together to make a sort of organism in and of itself. So that's pretty much where we're going with that. Ritual hands. Basically, what are ritual hands? Are the foundation of all organization in Hexcraft. Okay. There are 2 ritual hands. Okay. The left hand and the right hand. And I don't know I need to capitalize the. I don't think I will, but that's okay. I'll leave it for now. The left and right hand. It's a way. They're a way to classify things. All things. I'll say all things. In two completely different spaces of reality that benefit from any growth that happens to the other. Let's see, wait. They are a way to classify all things in two completely different spaces of reality that benefit from any growth that happens to its counterpart, maybe. The right hand, I'll say explicitly what I'm saying. The right hand gains, or when the right hand gains structure or ritual, the left hand can also use that infrastructure and apply it to its own realm. Yeah. Basically, and so basically those things, that infrastructure depends. That infrastructure belongs to the membrane. It belongs to the membrane, a space between the two hands. Yeah. What that means is basically, if we go back to if I go back to the concentric circles, I did this here. This is the use of all these things. Here are the elemental glyphs. The right hand is fire now. The membrane is the air. That's just the infrastructure. It's what needs to be in place so that these two hands can benefit from each other. They are not, the left hand and the right hand, just like our hands, are not separate, even though they are, but they're not. They're very much the same, just for different spaces. The right hand to me is my personal work. It's everything that I do, it whether I get paid for it or not. It's the things I dream of. It's my goals. It's outside of work. It's personal. Right hand is personal. I am right-handed, so that's why that does that. If you're left-handed, your left hand might be more sacred to you than your right hand because you use it more, and it's not a blunt tool compared to the finesse that your dominant hand can does. So these aren't explicit, the left hand and the right hand. You can switch them. It's just that I present it in a right hand way because that's what that's mine. I'm right-handed, so that's that's just how I organize it. Anyway, the membrane being in the middle here, and it's that zero. It's the zero of that ternary system, with both -1 and +1 against it, or in it. And I could actually do, because these will have to change. I'm gonna be doing, I'll show you that too. Probably in the next video, I'll actually show some of the web work. Oh, that's terrible like that. Maybe I just have to move it. We'll just do that. And then there's the air for the thing. And then again, this, there we go. Okay. So, that's how those cards should be working. Even though I still have to fill out these, but that's what the spreadsheet is. It's gonna fill these out automatically once I do it, and I'll eventually show what that is as well. But we're still talking about the philosophy basically of the whole system and how I got here really, and what here actually means. So yeah, left hand, I call it profane. It's work. Not that right hand isn't actual work, but it's the work that you get fiat for. It's the work that you get paid for. It's the work that you have to do, because if you don't get to eat. So there's nothing wrong with the profane. I use profane things all the time, but I recognize that that's not my dream. My dream isn't to get up and go to work every day and be on time. And if I'm 5 minutes late, I get, reprimanded or what have you, and then my pay gets taken away, and then blah 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 blah. That's not my dream. My dream is to work on right hand and eventually make my right hand my left hand provider. That's the ultimate goal. And then, like I said, these both have a membrane to share the infrastructure. That's the files. That's the programs. I don't just use Illustrator to write to make these diagrams. I use it for the left hand. So any benefit that I acquire using Illustrator, if I'm creating something like I am now on the right hand with it, and I learn something, that doesn't just benefit the right hand. I don't have to transmute it so it fits in the left hand. They're the left and right. They are chimera, mirrors of each other, right? Opposite mirrors, the reflection of one another. You don't need to say, well, I only want to be working on my dreams. I only want the right hand and the membrane. It's gonna take your left hand to do right hand things. It's gonna take money from your left hand work that you get as income to let you be able to do your right hand thing. That is just the way it works. Nothing comes from nothing. Everything comes from something. Everything's already there. Anyway, so so that's it. The ritual hands are both hands, and then you have the left hand and the right hand, and with this membrane in between. And now we're putting it all together where we have the ternary system here. We have assigned these values to them, but not in a table. We don't have right hand. It's because I work zoomed out. I don't know what I'm doing. Left hand. Maybe just do this. Okay. The table. Sometimes I do this. Sometimes there's a left hand and a right hand, and it's a table and everything like that. But aside from being in the same table, this is very separate. You have column 1, column 2, and column 3. And that's how you read. That's how you would read that is, 1, 2, and 3. And that's how you would naturally read that, unless you did zero index in your head or something like that and just said, well, I see it like this. But balanced ternary, like we said in the last video, balanced ternary is this is oh, we did right hand on the other side. Oh yeah, I switched these. Yeah. So then your left hand becomes -1 because you're going backwards, and your membrane is 0 because it's in the center. But you don't, unless you were trained to see that, or you were told that that's, well, this is how we do it, you don't naturally do that. Like I said, even if you zero index this, you're still counting from left to right, 0, 1, 2, not membrane in the center. This is going up and this is going down. That can only happen with balanced ternary. You may think that this is the center and these two are arms of that center. And maybe in your mind you would think that, but I don't know how you can think that without, I don't want to say without knowing balanced ternary, but it's just more natural that everything is like that. Everything is 0, -1, and 1. And if that's not, well, why is that important? Because this -1 is down and this +1 is up, and that's what these triangles represent, is its direction and a charge to it, in this sense that yes, the inner circle for right hand is value 1, and that value 1 is fire, and that fire is represented with the upward triangle, filled triangle. The membrane is 0, meaning it's in the middle, meaning it's what you need before you even start and get to the right hand, which makes it 0. And 0 is air, because you can't really see air, even though it is something. It is something, and it's the reason we're alive. But nobody said, well, let's start with air. Let's start with our breath. Let's start with writing it down, basically. And that again, that infrastructure, that organization happens in the membrane, because the membrane is that extra space. Most people have that idea that the right hand is personal and the left hand is work. Everybody has those two profiles, work and personal. There's always two halves, even if there were only two halves to your existence, which I think is very shallow to say, well, I have personal things and work things and that's it. It implies that there is this space that is neither of those things, or is both of them. And that, again, that space to me is the membrane.